And we should be live. Welcome everyone. We are live from London, live from Fulham. We've got about 10 minutes before to start. So if any of you have just clicked on this video, if you don't know what you're watching, if you are live with us, you'll have to bear with us for 10 minutes. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. If you're watching the replay in the next few days or weeks, you might want to skip the next 10 minutes precisely if you want to go straight into the walking tour. And hello again, Catherine. And Tish, there you are. Perfect. Nice to see you here. The sound is great, says Tish. And welcome, Sarah. Right. I think a lot of you know the drill already. Welcome, Satyam. Nice to see you here. I'm just going to be tapping the microphone 3 times. Let me know if you've heard it. Sorry, that was not a tap, that was next to the tap. So, again. Right, you had the motorcycle right at the same time, but you should have heard a triple tap. If you've not heard any tap, let me know in the chat. The microphones can always get disconnected. Or they could be tricked by the pollens. There's so much pollen coming down from the trees in London these days. Oh, is he going to park here? Because I'm literally sat on the pavement. Yeah, the pollens can actually go and lodge themselves in the cables. You've heard it, perfect. Yeah, I should stand up. They're gonna park here. They probably wonder what I'm doing, sat on the pavement in such a posh area. This is not the type of streets where you see people sitting on the floor. And welcome, Mr. Sturd. Nice to see you here. And welcome, Shas. And welcome anyone that I've missed. Hi, Matthew. Nice to see you here. And Mark is here as well. Nice to see you, Mark. And Bonnie Stricker. Welcome. So we've got a few minutes before to start. We've got about 8 minutes. Oh. He didn't make it, didn't manage to park, so I could have stayed sitting down. Well, I might as well stand. That will save me the awkward moment later on. I just prefer to be on the floor because some of the local residents might be looking out of the windows and be like, what is she doing here? Well, some of them might know exactly what I'm doing here because it's quite an infamous Fulham address. But some of you might not, actually. There's a lot of French people around here. Some of them quite posh, but maybe they don't know what happened here in the late 90s. And welcome everyone that just joined. We still have a few minutes before to start. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. And then we'll go for a little walk in Fulham. So that's a new location. We've not been here before in my live streams. And if anyone was completely new to me, of course, do say hello in the chat. Don't be shy. This is a live stream, so anything can happen. And also, if any of you were watching the replay in the next few weeks or months, sometimes you can have some micro cuts of signal. So if at some point you have a cut and you miss part of the sentence, that could be what happened. Hopefully not. Finger crossed. Let's hope that the gods of the internet will be with us today. Yes, it is a new location. I guess one day we should try to go on the other side of the river as well. We should do Putney one day. Hi, Mitzi. And welcome everyone that just joined. We still have a few minutes to go. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. And welcome, Lee. Tonight I'm going to mention some murders that are a little bit more recent than I usually do. So little disclaimer, I don't really like to talk about modern stuff because, some of the families could be watching. So yeah, just to let you know, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone involved. Victims, suspects, culprit, whoever. Yeah. Because, if you were, I don't know, the brother, the sister, the uncle, the neighbor of someone that had been murdered, you probably would find it quite annoying to have those YouTubers coming on, borrowing over the story over and over again. And so I'll try to keep it respectful for everyone. And welcome, Confused Grapes. Nice to see you here. So we've got 5 minutes, 5 minutes to start. We're just waiting until it is officially 7 p.m. in the UK. Let me give you a glimpse of the view. The street might look a little bit familiar because this is where I filmed the little short last week. You know, the one where the voice went AI by accident, where I was filming a shoe on the street that was dropped by a fox. When you see single shoes, often branded and nice shoes on the streets of London, you might wonder why they've been left behind. It's usually the foxes. The foxes, they love smelly stuff. So when people leave their shoes on their doorstep because they might be wet or smelly and they forget them overnight, very often the fox actually come on and pick them up at night and then they drop them elsewhere. Actually, you know what? After that little short, one of my friends was like, "Oh my God, you've just solved a big mystery between him and his many flatmates." He was one of the flatmates was under the impression that one of his Crocs, you know, the shoes, the plastic shoes, had been stolen, and he made a huge drama about it. And so I just told him that it's probably the foxes, not the humans. Anyway, let's see what time it is. Yes, 4 minutes to go. 4 minutes. We are on Gowan Avenue. For some of you that are from Britain, that might ring a bell. There was a very infamous event happening here in 1999. Hi, Pauline. Nice to see you here. So we've got a few minutes to go. We'll wait until it's officially time to start. Oh yes, it was a lovely day. It still is. I literally just put my little jacket back on because by the time we finish it might be a bit cold. But pretty much everyone was wearing a t-shirt all day. And there's a lovely park down there called Bishop Park. People were enjoying the sun. It's quite a posh park as well. It's so posh that when you go to the public toilets, they're free, but you've got a lot of toilet roll, you know, that are not in the dispenser. They're just there. I mean, in my area, you wouldn't have that because everyone would steal the toilet roll, you know. In Fulham, they don't. Exactly, Shas. That's the house I'm about to show you. Yes, the infamous number 29. With the murder on the doorstep. So we've got quite a few, we've got actually 3 murders or series of murders today that a lot of you, at least a lot of you in the UK would remember, because they're fairly recent. And one of them has just been featured in a massive ITV drama, so everyone knows about it now. But I'll show you the location. Laurie is saying home in 15. Yes, see you then. You might miss the few minutes, but we'll be still here waiting for you, Laurie. Yeah, you thought of Jill Dando, Sarah? Yes, it is indeed the street. As usual, you know, I'll show you the properties and then I'll move on. I don't want to be standing in front of people's places for too long, you know. Let's see what time it is. I think we should have 1 minute. 1 minute before it's officially time to go. Oh, you just came across her name the other day? Yeah. An unsolved mystery. Well, if you believe it's a mystery, I don't. I think it's a cover-up. It's an ongoing cover-up, but we'll get to that. Right, let's see what time it is. It is officially time to start, so welcome, guys. And without further ado, let's go for a little walk in beautiful, sunny Fulham. So Fulham is known as one of those well-to-do areas in London, nearly as posh as Chelsea, really. And we are right next to Chelsea. Now, I'm going to show you the property and then I'll move on. This is number 29 Gowan Avenue. This is the very doorstep on which Jill Dando was murdered. If you don't know who she is, don't worry, I'll remind you in a moment. But yes, sadly, the anniversary was only 4 days ago. That was 26th of April, 1999. And she was a very famous TV presenter that was murdered right here on her doorstep. Officially, the mystery has still not been solved. Oh, thank you, Rachel. That's very nice of you. Now, let's make a move. Jill Dando, she was born in Weston-super-Mare, and I'm actually doing a live from Weston-super-Mare in a couple of weeks now. So that's why I wanted to fit this tour in before. So if I mention her again, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. The house looks tidy. Yes, they all do around here. People are quite clean and well painted, and well, not the people are well painted. I mean the houses. People are well shaved, maybe, but maybe not well painted. And yeah, it's quite classy around here, and probably very expensive as well. You know, you'd probably spend I don't know. Don't want to say anything wrong, but probably 3 million for a house like this, maybe 4. Anyway, so she was born in Weston-super-Mare. She had some family in journalism. She always knew she wanted to be a reporter, really. And she studied, of course, journalism. There's one little interesting fact that is not proven at all. It's probably just internet gossip, but some people say that when she was young, she might have written a letter to Jimmy Savile, the TV presenter, to help her get a job on TV. Again, take this as a pinch of salt. It's probably untrue, or at least unproven, but that's interesting. Now, she ended up working for BBC West Coast, or whatever it's called, the west of the country. And then eventually she ended up working for BBC here. She was a huge presenter. She was extremely popular, very pretty lady, very classy as well, a bit like Diana, really. And she ended up presenting some very popular shows, like a travel show or like Crime Watch. She was one of the co-hosts of Crime Watch. And which is very ironic is that she ended up being one of the subjects of her own show after the sad murder. She was even meant to be the presenter for the Millennium celebrations, you know, the New Year's Eve TV program. For the year 2000, sadly, she did not make it because she was murdered in April. Let me show you the name of the street. You see, it's quite an old street name. When the modern ones, you know, they would say SW6 or 6, I think. Oh, yes, I'll show you. There's a modern one right here. So the modern street sign, they actually say the number. Because of course, back in the day, it was only SW, and then they added those numbers. So you see, we are in SW6, and so Oh, my chew. Well, that's probably for a one bedroom. The or two bedrooms maybe, but those ones have more than that. We're looking at here. That's probably much more expensive than that. Well, I would guess. On the street we're going later on, the average is like 3 million. Here I didn't check, but yeah. Actually, if I don't forget, I've got a property for you later on to make you guess the price. Anyway, back to Jill. She didn't really live here. Actually, her property was on the market. She was living in Chiswick with her fiancé, a gynecologist. And that very morning, we don't know how. I mean, if she was stalked or anything, we don't know how she knew, how anyone would know that she was going home that morning, because she would only come every couple of weeks maybe to pick up the mail and check if she had any voicemails or maybe fax. I don't know, in 99 we probably still had some faxes. That morning she went to the fishmonger, she stopped in a shop, then she parked over here, and she was in the process of just putting the key in her doorway when she would have felt the cold feeling of a gun on her head, basically. Someone grabbed her from behind and shot her in the head. Then one of the neighbors actually they heard a scream, but they didn't believe it was anyone in danger. They heard a scream, but they thought there might be, some kind of prank or someone surprising their friend or something like that. Nothing massively out of the ordinary. And then he did see a gentleman, I don't know, but a tall guy living down those front door. A man, white man, nearly 6 foot. That was it, really. He didn't think much of it. He just thought he was a friend of Dando's. There were a few eyewitnesses that saw a man on the street where I am right now, sweating heavily. And at the bus stop as well, right, we'll see it in a moment, down there at the bus stop, apparently there was a man that was sweating heavily as well. But that was it. Now, a few minutes later, one of the local ladies, she actually knew Jill Dando. She spotted a body on the doorstep. She went to approach her. She called 999, and she said, "Oh, there's a lady here. I think she's dead." In confidentiality, I think it's Jill Dando. Now, it's potentially because she was so famous. The paramedics and everything, there was a helicopter, there was everything, and they kind of destroyed the crime scene because they really tried everything they could to bring her back to life. Sadly, there was a lot of people stepping around and stuff, so in terms of forensic, it's not ideal. And she was pronounced dead at Charing Cross Hospital in the same day, just a couple of hours later. And to this day, we don't know who's done it. There was, obviously, like any murder, they looked at her past love life. There was nothing there. Obviously, because she was so famous and so pretty, she would get a lot of unwanted attention, like many celebrities, but they couldn't find any fan that would have been a bit too much or not dangerous, at least. They looked at Crime Watch because they thought, she was doing a cold case program on the BBC where she would ask for witnesses to come forward if they'd had any type of information on crime or cold cases. So they looked at the crimes that had been solved with Crime Watch, see if maybe anyone could be wanting a revenge, This is the bus stop, by the way, where the eyewitnesses spotted the sweating men. So you would have jumped on a bus there to go towards Putney Station. And so they looked at many criminals that were caught after the show, but they found nothing there. And if you wanted to have a revenge, you'd probably try to kill whoever snitched on you, not the presenter of the show, Now, the police quickly started looking into a young man, a local man that lived half a mile away. Barry, his name was. he was a loner, and he was diagnosed later on with autism. He came into the attention of the police because of that, and they obviously came into his property, and they found hundreds of pictures of ladies that he had been stalking. They even developed, they still had those film cameras, they even developed some more, and they found at least 400 ladies he had been stalking. None of Jill. That's important to notice. There was not a single photo of Jill. And he said he didn't know Jill at all. Let's cross over while we can. And eventually the police seemed to be convinced that they had their man, Barry George he fit the profile of an obsessed individual that could potentially be a killer. But the gun was... it was a modified gun, whatever that means, and the bullet was still there, and some people would argue that it looked like a professional killing. And eventually they convicted poor Barry. They found one single fiber of probably his trousers, or one single fiber on Jill's body that allegedly matched his, or one of the items of clothing he had in his apartment. And they allegedly, they found a micro gun residue in his pocket, but apparently there was so little that, that couldn't really be used as evidence. Let me show you this beautiful little garden here. They've got amazing deco. I love the foxes at the back. And the castle is amazing. The gentleman is probably here, he was fixing it earlier. But my favorite is not even the castle, it's the foxes at the back. Look at them, they're so cute. You've got rabbits as well, you've got... it's like a wonderland for kids, or for anyone really. Anyway, back to poor Barry. Barry was eventually convicted. There was absolutely no link between him and Dando, and the fiber was, in terms of forensics, it really wasn't much. And eventually, so he was jailed. He was jailed for 7 years, and he kept claiming his innocence. The thing is, he wasn't. His mental capacity might not have been best for him to defend himself, but his lawyers never gave up, and eventually 8 years later he was acquitted. There was no new evidence really, but they looked again at the fiber and they were like, this is so common, everyone's got one of those fibers in their wardrobe, and the micro residue of gunpowder was just way too. And anyway, it could have been a jacket he would have bought in a charity shop, or, it was just way too insufficient. So he was freed after 7 years. And then we went back to square one. If it wasn't Barry George, who was it? Now, there is a claim that it might have been a Belgrade war killer. We are in 1999, so of course that's the time with the Kosovo war and conflicts in general, where of course NATO got involved and Britain. It is important to say that about 2 weeks earlier, Jill Dando, so she was a news reporter, she made a public appeal to help refugees from Kosovo. And she referred to Kosovo as a former Yugoslavian region, when obviously people from Belgrade, they were like, no, this is very much Serbia. So she might have annoyed some of the people in Serbia. It is possible. We'd have to precise as well that NATO had bombed a television building in Belgrade. Some of their TV presenters and staff in general had been killed and injured. So it could have been a reprisal. No one did. Well, there was a pranky phone call a few days after the BBC or the government? The BBC, I think, saying they had committed a murder or whatever, but no one took it seriously at the time. They believed it was a prank. And well, it is interesting to remember that there was an assassination in Belgrade as well that was the same type of operating mode. So, well, it would make sense. The latest news, I think it's the Daily Mail that spotted this. So this is a CCTV camera footage from, hi Tarek, and welcome everyone that just joined. This is a CCTV camera footage from Putney Station, taken on the day of the murder. Some journalists claim that this is the this is the scarf, he probably has a scar as well on his forehead, but of a Serbian killer, a very ruthless killer. Well, the one on the photo on the left, it's definitely the killer. This is Milorad Ulemek from Serbia. And some journalists believe that it's definitely him there on the CCTV footage because they recognize the tie. It is true that it's a very unique tie, but, you know, it's probably not that unique. And again, why would you go and commit a murder with a tie that you've been photographed with? Dando worked for the BBC. And we know that there was some institutional rot in the BBC in the 90s. A ring of PDF files. When I say PDF files, you know what I mean. I'm not talking about computer files. It's just I cannot say the term on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, you know, 10 years later or 11 years later, 13 years later, you know, obviously Jimmy Savile was exposed and we've had some more since that, you know. So personally, I think she might have discovered something. I mean, she was a reporter, she was a journalist, so even if it wasn't that, she might have discovered something else that... Oh, is it buffering a bit? Can you still hear me? If you've missed anything, I can repeat. Let me know in the chat. So yeah, personally, I think she might have discovered maybe the PDF files at the BBC or something, and something bad enough for her to be eliminated. As simple as that. Hello Cheryl, and welcome everyone that just joined. Let me know if it is indeed buffering. Hopefully not. Now, we are now entering Bishop Park, and the beautiful building to my left here, that is the entrance to Fulham Palace. It is nowadays a museum. I love this little building here. It looks a bit like out of a fairy tale, really, the pink one. And we're not gonna go down because at this time the palace is gonna be closed. Of London, the Bishop of London, not even Archbishop. The Bishop of London would live at Fulham Palace. It's been many years, I think, over 1,000 years, really. Now, I see I've lost quite a few people. Is it buffering? Can you hear me, guys? Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Otherwise, I'll move as quick as I can. So yeah, the museum would be closed at this time, but it's quite interesting to go inside. It's not been open for very long. It's only been a few years. The last Bishop of London to live inside was in the 70s. And let me show you a little video of the inside of the palace. I'll show you down here. So this is the inside of Fulham Palace. A lot of it looks a bit Tudor, because it is really. Nowadays it's a free museum, so you can go and explore. It's quite well done for the kids as well. Back. Okay, Laurie. Hopefully we might be back. Let me know in the chat. It's telling me it's better. You've had coffee in there, nice. I'll show you the video again because I think it cut down during the video. So that's the inside of Fulham Palace. Hopefully the signal is better now. I'm not too sure where it cuts, so let me know in the chat. If you can hear me now, you can tell me what's the last thing you've heard. So quite a few of London had, well, some of them have been executed over the years. I'm gone again. Oh no. Well, let's make a move. Hopefully it'll be a bit better. Let me know when we're back to normal. I'll try repeating what. According to the app, we're fine now. So let me know when you can hear me properly. I'll try to say nothing of great interest until you tell me that the buffering has stopped. Hopefully people will come back, because I can see we've lost a lot of you. It's funny because the system is not telling me that you're gone. So, that's a bridge from Joseph Bazalgette. So on the other side of the river, it is Putney. Oh, you can hear me, perfect, okay. Putney Bridge, that's where Mary Wollstonecraft jumped off trying to unalive herself. Although it's not quite clear whether she actually jumped off the bridge or if she rented a boat and actually jumped off of the boat. What we do know is that she had been, she'd purposely been walking under the rain. When we say Mary Wollstonecraft, you might remember we spoke about her in my St. Pancras tour. She was a great feminist of the 18th century. She was the mother of Mary Shelley, the lady that wrote Frankenstein. Mary, she was living with a guy called Gilbert. She had a child with him. They were not married, but they were pretending to be, because at the time, it was quite bad if you weren't. And he treated her badly and he cheated on her. And one day she had enough. She walked under the rain, so her items of clothing would be wet. Which is quite smart, because remember we talked about the lady that was saved by her petticoat, jumping off the Bristol suspension bridge, the Clifton Bridge. So it's actually smarter to get all your items of clothing wet beforehand, so you drown a bit quicker. Luckily, she did not drown. Someone witnessed it and she was saved. Because if that didn't happen, then we would have not had Mary Shelley and we would not have had Frankenstein. And do you remember in Notting Hill when we talked about John Christie, the 10 Rillington Place, the terrible serial killer? Well, he was actually, when he was caught, it was on the other side there, down there in Putney. He was recognized on the street. But maybe we should keep those stories for a day when we do Putney. For now, let's get back to what you couldn't hear earlier. So I don't know how much you've heard, but we were talking about Fulham Palace, which is now a museum. That was the residence of the Bishops of London. The Bishops of London, that's... Hi Kurt, welcome. And welcome, she who must be loved. Yeah, the Bishops of London, that was that was a difficult job, really. That was an easy job when everything went fine, but some of them actually had tragic ends. Bishop Bonner, the one we just mentioned, Bloody Bonner, he actually died in Marshalsea prison. He was... he was a Catholic, at the time of Queen Mary, and he was actually persecuting the Protestants, and he would allegedly take them prisoners and torture them in the palace. But he was not executed. Some other bishops of London were. You had Simon of Sudbury. He was no longer a bishop of London when he was killed, but he was killed during the peasant revolts, in 1381. He was beheaded, and his head is actually preserved. They kept his head it's in a church at the moment in Suffolk, I think. You had another one that was that was also executed during the Civil War. It's William Laud. He was also beheaded. He was, well, it's the Puritans that actually accused him of being way too Catholic. He was also beheaded. And there was another one that was burned. It's Nicholas Ridley. He was a supporter of Lady Jane Grey, you know, through just after Henry VIII, when we had again a lot of turmoil in terms of religion. He was burned by Queen Mary I, you know, the Catholic queen. So yes, some bishops had a tragic end, really. Now here is a better view of Putney Bridge. There was a bridge before this one. This one is from Bazalgette, and the one we had before, I think it was a wooden bridge. There was actually only the second bridge after London Bridge. You know, before the Putney one, there were no bridges between London Bridge and Kingston, really. But there used to be a ferry down there. Yeah, Kurt, they filled some of the omen down here, and in the churchyard as well. We'll go and see if the churchyard is still open, but I've never seen the omen. It's not really my generation, but let's go and see if we can get into the churchyard. I don't think they close it at night. Well, we'll see. If not, we'll go around. We have to go around anyway because we cannot go under the bridge. There's a bit of work on the other side. I mean, we can go under the bridge, but we can go much further after that. So let's try to see All Saints Church of Fulham. They have some lovely little statues here in the statue garden. Now the church, it's actually quite old, but it was rebuilt in most of it was rebuilt in Victorian times. They kept the church tower. The tower, I think it's 15th century. And yes, perfect. We can still go through. That's nice. Because I didn't know if I don't even think they close it at night, but we never know. So here we go. So that's the church tower. That bit is a bit older. The rest of it was rebuilt. Oh, you can hear the bells. The Victorian architect that rebuilt it, he was a son of one of the bishops of London. 11 of them are buried here, actually, the bishops. Now, let me show you a little example of memento mori, a beautiful skull. So again, when you see a skull on those old gravestones, it often represents it's to remind you of your own mortality, to remind you that one day you'll be judged. So you keep a good moral compass. Now, let me show you a little video of the inside of the church, because at this time it's closed, but I was in there earlier to film a video. There we go. Well, that's still the outside. I didn't know whether the garden would be open, so I filmed the outside as well. But let me show you the inside. There's a very interesting monument inside, a tomb, this one. This is Lady Margaret Lee. She's being portrayed with her dead infant. She was an Elizabethan lady. I think her husband was at Parliament, but she died at 33. Oh, this is the hourglass. That's also memento mori. That's also reminding you that your time will come one day, you know. And she had 9 kids when she died at the age of 33. Two of them dead, but yeah. Now let me show you a beautiful. This is the almshouses. You used to have the vicary on this end, but look how cute this is. Now it's a private property, but that was the Sir William Powell's almhouses. So that was a property for basically poor widows. I think you had 12 little properties inside, but it looks like a movie set, really. Right, let's make a move because we need to make sure I've got enough battery to take you all the way till the end of the tour, because we've got quite a walk today. So I shouldn't chit-chat too much, we should move on. But before we go too far, there's a lovely insurance plaque up there. Let me show you. I'll just zoom in. You might remember, for those of you that are my regulars, we talked about those little plaques before. See the little two hands, shaking hands? That's an insurance plaque. So back in the day, when you had a property, in the 18th century, before we had the fire brigade, you'd have your own insurance, and the firemen were working for that insurance. So if there was a fire, they'll come and take a look, and if you had a plaque, they'll help. They used to work with the ferrymen, they'll get water from the river. And if you had no plaque, they'll watch it burn. Now, this is a cool pub. Well, cool. It's an interesting pub, the Temperance. It's quite ironic because now it's a busy pub, like a sport pub. But that used to be the Temperance billiard hall. The Temperance, they were basically teetotalers. They were trying to get people away from alcohol, so they opened this type of venue for people to come and play games and stuff without drinking. And now it's very much a drinking place. But you can still see the old sign, Temperance Billiard Hall. And let's cross down here. Oops. We're not gonna go, but see the little blue pub down there? It's the Golden Lion. It's a newer building, but it is said that that back in the day, at the time of Queen Mary, Bloody Bonner, the Bishop of London, the one we just talked about, he had some prisoners inside and he would torture them in the basement, hoping they'll speak and they'll admit their Protestant liking and stuff. They allegedly, again, there's no evidence of that, but it's a little of an urban myth that they found some bodies in there, or bones at least. Another cool pub, the King's Arm. They have a nice sign for the Charringdon brewery on the side. The Charringdon brewery, we talked about it before because you might remember we talked about it at Tower Hamlets Cemetery, because Charringdon was actually accused of being Jack the Ripper. A ridiculous claim, but that really highlighted how easy it is to build a Jack the Ripper case against anyone, really. Now let me show you. We don't see much of it, but there we go, the Charringdon Ales. So that's the brewer. Now let's go and see another pub that's even older. Well, the pub license is very old. The pub itself has been rebuilt like many. With the old bridge, the old wooden bridge was not exactly at the same spot as the Bazalgette one. So at the time of the old bridge, the pub we're going to just there was very much a prime location. Now it's a bit tucked away behind the Premier Inn Hotel and everything, which is probably better. It's probably less busy. It's called the Eight Bells. It is a spot where it is said that the early footballers at the Fulham Football Club, apparently they used to change in the pub. And there's also a quite obscure legend here. Well, it might have been a real lady, but we don't have much information. Apparently there used to be a lady living around here that was known as the Old Coffin Lady. She was she was paranoid of having a pauper's burial. You know, at the time when you had no money at the time of your death, the church would have to take care of your burial, and it was going to be basic. So apparently she had bought a coffin for herself, and she kept the coffin in her bedroom for many, many years. She used it as a little closet, really, and allegedly she lived around here. There's no evidence of that. It might just be like a local legend, but always interesting. And it was a proper fear at the time, you know, to be to have a pauper's burial and not to be buried properly. Now, that's the pub, the 8 Bales, from 1629, the pub license. So that's a proper old pub. You know, there are a lot of pubs in London that claim to be quite old, but this one definitely was here for a long time. Now, the pub, or the back of it, that's also sadly a murder site. It is a case that we talked about before. There's a lady that lived somewhere at the back of the pub there, that was sadly a victim of Kenneth Erskine, the Stockwell strangler. We talked briefly about him when we were in Stockwell, but you might remember the signal wasn't great, so I don't know how much of the story you actually heard. I gave up on doing any tours in Stockwell because the signal is just so bad. Kenneth Erskine was a crazy killer. The story here was actually the last victim. She was 80 years old. Florence Tyndall, her name was. Florence was, she lived alone. She was partially deaf and blind, and all of the victims of the Stockwell strangler were actually quite old. And Florence, that's quite cute. She'd gone to the hairdresser that day because she was gonna be watching the royal wedding on television. Fergie and the Duke of York, or former Duke of York. Former Prince Andrew, now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. I think it's quite cute that she went to the hairdresser to watch it on TV anyway, so no one was going to see her. But yeah, it really shows you how important Fergie and Andrew would have been at the time. Remember that, because we'll talk about Fergie a bit more in a few minutes. Now, before we get much further, this is Putney Bridge station. That's, oh, you saw the case at the Old Bailey. Oh, amazing, Kurt. Wow. Did you see the first trial when he was found guilty, or did you see the one when he was acquitted 7 years later? That's good. I've never been to the Old Bailey. I've been to the Royal Court of Justice, but we were talking with some of my colleagues about going down to the Old Bailey one day. Anyway, to get back to Jill Dando, this is the station, Putney Bridge station, where they had the CCTV footage of the guy with the tie, the guy we just mentioned a moment ago. Now, for now, back to the Stockwell. Oh, hold on. Let's go to the station. I had not noticed earlier. Look at this letterbox. It's an odd one. It's usually meant to be embedded in the wall, isn't it? Let's go and take a look. That's an odd one. Yeah, this is the models that are usually embedded into a wall. This is GR. So we're talking about George V here. He doesn't need to put the fifth because at the time of George IV, they had no mailboxes. But yeah, that's an interesting model because usually those ones, they are embedded into the wall itself. They're not really, they're usually not really self-standing like this. Anyway, enough about post boxes. You know I like my post boxes, but I don't know if everyone does. So let's move on. Now, the Stockwell strangler. The case of Florence Tyndall here was actually the last one. He had already been identified, but sadly they couldn't locate him because he was semi-homeless. The case started with a lady called Nancy. You saw him being acquitted. Good. That was probably quite a relief to see him finally free. Now, Nancy, she was so the first victim. I think she was 76. Nancy, she lived alone, and she that was in Wandsworth, so not too far from here. She already suffered from some slight dementia, so she had a lady coming to help her every so often with cooking or cleaning, and one morning the lady turned up and Nancy was dead. The pathologist arrived and they concluded it was natural causes. But the care lady was like, hold on, we're missing a TV here. And that's when they looked a bit deeper, and it was not natural causes. She had been sexually assaulted and strangled. And they found one hair on the bed that clearly didn't belong to Nancy because it was of Afro-Caribbean descent. That's the underground up there. That should be the district line. Probably going up towards Earl's Court and all that. Oh, you've seen him on the street after the trial? Well, it's good to see that he can still walk around the street and not be bothered by people. Now, back to Nancy. So that was the first victim, but I feel like my gimbal is starting to move. Well, hope not. After that, there was another lady called Janet. She was 80 years old. She was in Stockwell. And again, they realized it was definitely not natural causes. His victims were not only ladies, he also killed and sexually assaulted men. They really realized they had a serial killer for sure. After the case of, there was a nursing home in Stockwell where one of the staff at night, she heard some noise like an electric razor shaving, someone shaving. And you know, some of the residents would sometimes wake up at night, but never did they shave at 2 a.m. And she was petrified, but eventually she managed to wake up her colleague and they went to investigate, and they saw a silhouette running away. And he had killed two of the residents, two gentlemen. He had sexually assaulted both of them. Both of them were actually World War II survivors, one veteran and one Polish survivor. Now, before we go much further, this is the Fulham pottery there. It was huge at the time. That's the only bit left. But I think that's where Doulton, you know, the famous Doulton pottery in Lambeth, I think that's where he studied actually. Anyway, back to back to Kenneth. Here in Putney, so they were, well, we don't really know how many victims for sure. At least 7 and one survivor, but he might have killed some more that went unnoticed before. When he was arrested, well, actually, after that very murder here in Putney, well, in Fulham, but he was spotted on Putney Bridge vomiting, and one lady was so scared that she called the police. He looked like a beast. His eyes were, he looked like very scary. That's him. He doesn't look very scary on this photograph. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he was actually completely insane. The psychologist that met him was like he had never seen anyone reacting like this, considering the gravity of the events. You know, yes, it looks like pottery itself. The little building. Now, Kenneth. Even when he was interrogated at the police station, he was actually masturbating at the same time. And apparently he masturbated in court as well. He was clearly not fit for normal prison, so they sent him to Broadmoor. I think he's still alive, and it was a bit controversial a few years ago because I think he was applying for parole or admitted into daily excursions or day outs of the prison. You know what? When he was at Broadmoor, he actually saved a life. He saved the life of the Yorkshire Ripper. I think there was someone attacking the Yorkshire Ripper with a pair of scissors or something. And it's actually Kenneth that called security. Hello, you. Would you like to come and be a YouTube sensation? Come. Yeah. You're beautiful. You look like a fox from the distance. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let you go. You can tell Mummy you've been on YouTube. Yeah? Okay, bye. Now, back to Kenneth. He had actually he was raised in Putney, so just across the river. He in a council flat. His dad was from Antigua, I think, and his mother was English. But his parents actually had given up on him when he was 16. He was, even as a child, he was already dangerous. He had tried to kill some of his friends at swimming pool, tried to drown them, and he, I think he had tried to hang his own brother, his little brother. So that's when his parents were like, that's enough, they kicked him out. And he ended up being on the streets. The police officers couldn't really find him any friends whatsoever, but when so basically they managed to find his identity eventually with fingerprints. He left a few fingerprints on some of the windows, because that was a very hot summer when he was targeting his victims, so a lot of them would have opened windows at night. And he also had left a full palm print, but we are at the beginning of we are in 86, so that's when they slowly started to categorize and digitalize those prints. So it took a while to identify him. But when they had his name but not his location, they actually published his photographs in the papers, which is quite rare to do that before the trial and everything, but they needed to find him. And one of the local hairdressers in Stockwell, she called the police and she was like, yeah, I know this one. This was a very remarkable costumer. Apparently, he had... yes, well, he had spent a bit of time in institutions and stuff, but I wouldn't blame the parents. I would probably blame the doctors that let him go, because he was quite frankly dangerous. But hey ho, yeah, the hairdresser, she called the police. She was like, yeah, this guy, I remember his face definitely. Apparently, he had booked himself for a hairdresser appointment, and he asked his hair to be bleached. Nothing unusual, a lot of people do that. But he also asked the lady if she could bleach his pubic hair and eyebrows and eyelashes. The lady said, no chance. But I can do your hair. You skull head, you head hair if you want. So she prepared the product and she applied it on his head. When she left to treat another issue. And she came back, he had grabbed the product and he had applied it into his genitalia and his eyelashes and his eyebrows as well. So she had to help him rinse it off because it was burning. So she definitely remembered him. Little break in the story. There's a lovely plaque here for Madge Vaida. She was a lady that helped people. There was a bit of a flood down here in 1928. Well, not a bit, a big flood. And there were people in the basement flat, including herself. She woke up in the middle of the night with the flood. She swam out of the windows and then she came back in to rescue people. So she saved some lives. And this is Hurlington Park after the Hurlington Club. That was, I think originally it was a pigeon shooting club, but then it became a polo club. Polo, which is such a posh sport. There's also a French high school on the other side. Well, I think it's part of the Charles de Gaulle, the Lycée Charles de Gaulle from South Kensington, but yeah. There are quite a lot of French people around here. When I came here to prepare the route a couple of weeks ago, that was on a Sunday morning, every single joggers, well, at least the couples of... Sorry, I'm just gonna wait. Yeah, at least the people jogging in a couple, they were speaking French. Everyone was speaking French. There are a lot of French people in London, but the posh ones are often around here. It's interesting, the French immigration in the UK is mainly in London. I think there probably are as many Brits in France that there are French in the UK, but the Brits in France, they go in the middle of the countryside, you know, they're buying former farms and they stay in Dordogne. Here it's not the case, you know, you wouldn't see a French couple retiring and buying a farm in Northampton or a caravan in Skegness. So here it's mainly Londoners that happen to be French. Anyway, back to Kenneth. So yeah, he had a very, very troubled childhood, and he had clearly shown some very dangerous tendencies before. But yeah, it's and apparently when he was jailed, he claimed he had killed some more. He had killed one in Enfield, an elderly person as well, and sadly, when people are elderly, if there's no reasons to suspect much, you know, you might not even call for an autopsy, you know. So there might have been some more that we don't know about. He was also stealing some of the goods. When he was caught, he had 10 bank accounts and he had saved about, £300 at the time. That was probably much more in today's money. So he was also stealing some items. You know, he was on the street and he was addicted to some form of drugs and stuff, so he needed to finance his habits. Now, I've got a property for you here. It's just come into the market recently. It's behind the trees there. I'll show you the front door. Let me show you the photos already if you want to try to guess how much. It's an 8-bedroom property to buy. And it's a freehold, so the freehold, it belongs to you forever. It really, truly belongs to you. So you can see there's a swimming pool, there's a car park. How much do you think that might cost you? 8 bedrooms, swimming pool, car park, a freehold. Bearing in mind we are in Fulham, it's a very fancy area, so that's going to be a high price. How much do you think you might have to pay for an 8-bedroom down here in Fulham with your own 5 million? Oh, you can go a bit higher, Pauline. 2.5 says Patricia. You can go much higher. Actually, you can much higher. It's so high that they don't actually give you a price. They tell you, give us an offer in around this price. Laurie, you know what? You're very, very close. You're definitely the closest so far. Let me just flip the camera around so you can see. Herbie, you can triple that or even quadruple that. Sarah, you're very close as well. Very, very close. So it's this one here. It probably doesn't look like that impressive from here, but the garden side view. Tish, you're not too far either. Let me remove the pictures and I'll show you the answer. Ta-da! 23 million. So if you guys are interested, let me know. I'll contact them and I can take a little commission if you don't mind. Charles, you're very close as well. So yeah, if any of you wanted a little pied-à-terre in London, do let me know. I can make them an offer for you. I know it's insane, but some people have this type of money, I guess. Now, let me tell you about our last murder case for tonight, because my battery is going down, so I better get on with the story. It is a case that you might have heard of. I'm gonna tell you about Jane Andrews. You might have heard of her because they recently made a big ITV TV series about her. She's the lady that went from palace to prison. She worked for Sarah Ferguson. She was her personal dresser. But let me get back to the beginning. Jane was born in Clifthorpe, that's next to Grimsby. I'll take you there in a couple of weeks. That's why I wanted to do this tour before to take you there, because we've got a link to Weston-super-Mare and a link to Grimsby, and we're going to both of those locations this month. Now, she was in a very poor family. She had an older brother. They were poor. They didn't even have their own toilets. You know, they had to share a toilet with the neighbors. And Jane was a child that might not have been the most sociable. She at school, she did well at school. She was actually in a grammar school at first, so that's for those of you that are not for the UK, that's for the smart kids. Well, she was in a grammar school, but I think the family had to downsize the property, so they moved, and then she went to a normal school that she didn't do as well. I don't know whether she was bullied or anything, but she hated the time in the new school. Then she went into, you know what, I'll show you one of the schools she went to when we go to Grimsby in a couple of weeks. Now, at the age of 17, she got pregnant. Is local, yeah, usually the council taxes are different in each borough, but it's not always proportional, because I think a few years ago when I was in Wandsworth, there was the cheapest council taxes in London, yet you have some very posh properties in Wandsworth. Some part of Hurstfield, just right next to Wandsworth Prison actually, you have some very posh areas down there as well. So, but yes, I bet if I was to live here, my council taxes would be much more than they are in Camberwell. Now, so she's pregnant, 17 years old. She already suffered from mental health issues then, eating disorders, as well as, she had tried to take her own life already. She had been skipping school, and one day the teachers were actually going to call her mother to let them know that she wasn't going to school, and that day she swallowed all the pills in her cabinet at home. Somehow the family did not take her to hospital. Not sure why, if it's because they were ashamed of her trying to unalive herself, or if maybe they didn't understand the gravity of the thing, or if they didn't know how much she had taken. But yeah, she had already tried to take her own life, and she had to make the decision of having an abortion. Apparently that traumatized her, and she deeply regretted, and she always thought about the child that she never had. Now, she probably was quite unstable, and she, would it have been a great environment for her baby? Maybe not. But anyway, apparently that traumatized her. And she was really into fashion. She liked sewing from a very young age. And she worked in shops, but she dreamt big. She dreamt about being famous. She dreamt about being rich. And she was really determined that she'd be rich one day. Now, before we go much further, you might see a lot of lions up there. All around us, you see those little statuettes of little lions in all those streets. You have literally 4 on each buildings. There's a little story behind it. In late Victorian times, there was a developer, developer Nichols, his name was Tom Nichols? John Nichols? Well, anyway, Mr. Nichols. He wanted to order about 250 of those little lions. Let me zoom in on one so you see them a bit better. And he made a mistake with the order. He ended up ordering 2,500 lions. And I think he managed to stop the production once he realized, but he still ended up with 1,500 lions. And he placed them on all the buildings he built around here. So it became a bit of his trademark. So now this street and the surrounding streets are very famous because of all those lions. They are everywhere. Now, back to Jane. She wants to be famous. She's dreaming big, and she she eventually picked up a copy of a magazine called The Lady. And she spotted an ad. Someone was looking for a personal dresser, whatever that means. She applied. She sent a motivation letter, and then she didn't hear anything about it. She almost forgot about it. When 6 months later, she had a phone call. They had a little interview over the phone, and then only they revealed who the client was. They were looking for someone to dress Sarah Ferguson, Fergie, the Duchess of York. She would have been married for only a couple of years. I think she had just had Beatrice, her first child. You might wonder why they want a personal dresser, but you know, the royal family, well, especially at the time, even more than today, you know, they would be heavily criticized for what they wear, you know. If they looked a bit too much like Diana or like the Queen Mother or whatever, they'll be criticized for copying them. And if their skirt was a bit too short for one particular type of event, they'll be criticized. Still today, but maybe not as bad today. So they of course. And Jane actually came down for an interview in London at Buckingham Palace. She actually lived at Buckingham Palace at the beginning with Fergie, would you believe? And you'd have to remember at the time Fergie didn't see much of Prince Andrew because he was in the Navy. She actually complained that she would see him only 40 days a year, you know. The two became very close. So Sarah started working for Fergie. She might have struggled a bit to fit in because, of course, she's from Grimsby, so Lincolnshire. So she probably would have sounded a bit northern, not as posh as the people she was now talking to. So she had to take elocution lessons. You can see that after watching the tour tonight. You might want to see the ITV drama. That's all portrayed in the drama. The actress that plays Fergie, it's Natalie Dormer. And you might not have heard much about the drama because she refused to promote it. Because it was filmed, of course, before we heard that Fergie was also linked to the Epstein scandal and that, you know, so Natalie Dormer refused to promote it. She was not invited into any television to promote the show. And she also gave up on her income. She gave all the money to sexual assault charity. So that's why you might not have heard much about the show because it wasn't promoted much because Natalie refused to do so. Before we go much further, we have a lovely letterbox here. Let me show you. Edward VII. So that's quite an old one. It dates back to the beginning of the 20th century. Now, let's get back to our story. So Jane is now working at the palace. She's taking elocution lessons. She's starting to sound like them, you know, to speak proper posh English. And she's being introduced, of course, to all the friends, and she's basically following Fergie around because you've got to dress every day. You've got to, and she started to also look like Fergie and dress like Fergie. Let me show you the two of them together. Here they are. Well, she started to dress like Fergie, but she was also the one dressing Fergie anyway. And they became great friends. I mean, Fergie also suffered from some kind of eating disorders at that point. So apparently they shared that together, which is it's a bit toxic really, but they were very close at that point. Now, at that point, oh yeah, I remember the black sheep sweater. Diana had a great sense of style from herself, you know. Well, maybe the personal stylers were helping as well, but yeah. Anyway, so yes, she started to look like Fergie, and she very quickly met a very rich gentleman, twice her age, and they married after 3 months. So that was like very, very quick. His name was Christopher Dunn Butler. They married, they stayed together. Jane was much later on, diagnosed with, what do you call it, personality disorder. What do you call it? BD. What is it called? borderline personality disorder. That's what it's called. We know now that yes, the flat. Well, we'll get to the flat in Battersea. We know now that borderline personality disorders, it makes it very difficult for relationships. Very often the people that suffer from that disorder are extremely jealous. They overreact to a lot of things. They can be extremely possessive as well with their relationships. So that probably, the jealousy probably already started here with Butler. But they stayed together. They were together for a while until she met another guy called Dimitri Hearn. He was the son of a shipping magnate, a Greek guy, very rich as well. So they started an affair, and then eventually she decided to divorce. We are at about the same time as Fergie's divorce. I think about 1995. So again, they kind of understood each other in that matter, you know, Fergie and Jane, because they were both going through a divorce. You know, that's about the time when Fergie was having affairs, and she had the famous picture of the toe sucking in the press and all that. So when Jane decided to go for a divorce and give her relationship with the Greek guy a go, Fergie actually helped her get a flat in Battersea. So they did have a very close bond. Although it was a professional relationship, it definitely was some form of a big friendship as well. Now, the copying, I mean, maybe at some point it became a bit too much for Fergie to have a girl dressing like her, speaking like her, getting into all her circle of friends as well. And well, Fergie is also going through a divorce, so the money is not as good as it used to be when she was part of the royal family. She had to sack a lot of people, but she had told Jane that she was never going to get rid of her. She had told Jane that she would be kept at any cost. That is until, well, we don't know that for sure, but it is said that Jane starting to date one of Fergie's ex. That could be when Fergie was like, okay, that's enough. And eventually she was fired. So she lost her job with Sarah Ferguson. But you'd have to remember that when she lost that job, she lost everything. She lost her cycle of friends as well, because of course they were all connected to Fergie. And also, I mean, you know, when you've worked for the royal family for 9 years or 10 years, whatever it was, it probably looks great on your CV, but the skills, where do you apply them? All the skills you've learned. I mean, yeah, great, you can follow royal protocol, but where else are you going to find a job apart from the royal family? Eventually, I think she ended up working for a jeweler for a while, and that's when she was introduced to another millionaire, Tom Cressman. They started a relationship, and at that point, she's in her early 30s. She's dreaming of marriage. The relationship was a bit toxic. She claimed that Tom was a bit cruel, but again, Tom doesn't have a voice to defend himself. But she really wanted to get married, and he would never ask. And she started to stalk him and to check his emails, and she would call him repetitively when he was away. And apparently she found some emails of his that he had been sending to a lady he met at a work event. And the emails were of a sexual nature. And in these emails, there's apparently there's a line where he says, Jane is like an old pair of slippers I can't get rid of. Eventually, so she streamed, they keep arguing, but then they wouldn't really talk it through. You know, they argue and then they kind of get back together. But even some of his friends knew that wasn't going well, that the relationship was toxic. And They went on a holiday in a lake in Italy. I think there was a boat race or something like that. Thank you, Kurt. And she believed he was going to propose. It was such a romantic holiday. He had to propose. That was coming. And he did not. Then he took her to Saint-Tropez, to a family property, to meet the family, but they kept arguing, and eventually he told her he was never going to propose. If you watch the series on ITV, it's definitely not Saint-Tropez. It was filmed in Mallorca. And actually the scenes in Greece, I think they're filmed in Mallorca as well. It's not meant to be Saint-Tropez, it's meant to be Grimaud, where the family had a property, but Grimaud is right next to Saint-Tropez. But it's definitely not filmed in Saint-Tropez. And it looked good, it just doesn't look like France. And anyway, she went ballistic when she realized he wasn't going to propose, and apparently she even stole a car and she brought it back, but she was like, yeah, I'm gonna hang myself, I'm gonna jump off a cliff. And she had done that with Dimitri as well. When he broke up with her, she smashed his apartment, and she was really, really intense. But we know now that it's quite typical of borderline personality disorder. And eventually they went back. They flew back from Nice back to London. They came back to their flat here in Fulham, and they had a huge argument. That night, Tom picked up the phone to ring the police, and he said, "I'd like you to come and split us." He said, my other half and I are having a massive fight. And the police was like, is anyone injured? No. And the police was like, is anyone being threatened? No. What is she doing now? She's staring at me. And the police was like, what do you want us to do, sir? I mean, if there's no one being hurt, no one being threatened. And he was like, I'd like you to come and split us up before anyone gets injured. The police did nothing. You know, at the time, I think we've kind of evolved a little bit in that matter over the years, but it's always, when it's a man being threatened or scared of a lady, it's always a bit harder to get the police motivated, basically. And 2 days later, his body was discovered. One of his workmate decided to come and check because he had no news. The door was open. They went to the bedroom. He had been brutally attacked. He had been hit with a cricket bat and then stabbed. There was no traces of Jane, but she had left 2 little post-it notes. Those are not the original, by the way. It's a little AI image I designed myself to just to remember what was said on the note. So one said, "My dearest parents, I'm so sorry. No more hurt inside me." And the other one said, so the other one was not addressed to the parents, it was a different one. She said, "Tom hurt me so much. He was cruel." It doesn't look, well, it could be like an admission of guilt, but it could also very much be a note announcing that she was going to take her own life. I don't want to say the S word, but you know what I mean. Now, of course, the police, they quickly understood that there was a lady in his life. You know, there were ladies' items all over the flat. So they looked into Jane. She had to be located. Maybe if she wasn't a witness straight away, she had to be located anyway, because if there was an attacker that came on onto the building, she might have been a victim as well. But because her car was missing, they very quickly thought she might be responsible. No one could contact her. She was not picking up the phone. No one could find her anywhere. They used all her friends to try to ring her. She wouldn't pick up the phone. And eventually the police went to Sarah Ferguson. She had sacked her over 2 years earlier, but the police went to Sarah and she was like, okay, you need to try to contact her. She might reply to you because she's got such admiration for you. So they actually did try, and it's only then, so I think Fergie left a voicemail saying it's all right, you need to come clean, you need to come to the police. And that's then only, they've got a broken window. I don't know who tried to get in, but anyway, so that's when she started to reply to people. pretending like nothing happened, like if nothing was unusual. She was like, "Oh, do you know where Tom is?" Anyway, this is the building. I don't know which of the apartments, but it's in that building there. I'll show you the main gate, and then I'll come back down this way because I don't want to be filming people's property for too long. So yeah, the police couldn't locate her until eventually. So there was a huge manhunt. I mean, everyone was looking for her everywhere. Her car was. Everyone had the signal. My bicycle is here. You know, when you see my bicycle, we're getting towards the end of the tour. Yeah, so there was a huge manhunt, or woman hunt. I don't know how if you can say that. And eventually, she picked up the phone. Her friend was calling her. The friend was already at the police station, and she said she was in her car. She didn't know where. So they started to use the location of the phone to find her. And there's a random police officer that found her at the same time. She was in Cornwall. Anyway, so this is the place. This is Malting's place. I don't know which flat exactly. Well, I actually do know, but I don't know which which windows. And I'm gonna make a move. I don't want to stay here too long, but that's where they used to live together. And so yeah, the police officer found her. She was in her car, on the front seat. She had taken a lot of pills. So trying to end it. And she pretended she knew nothing about it. She pretended everything was fine. She was quickly taken to a police station in London, when eventually she had to admit, but she claimed self-defense. She claimed that they had got home, had a massive argument, and that then he had been very cruel. Apparently, I mean, she had told some friends months earlier that he could be a bit cruel, at least verbally, that he would have said to her months earlier, "What makes you think I would want you as the mother of my kids?" Well, because you're dating me and you tell me you love me, maybe? But anyway, so, you know, there's always two sides to a story, and obviously we cannot have his side now. But she then claimed that he was so angry that he started to be physical, and that he had, I don't want to say the R word, but anally forced. And she claimed self-defense, when actually a lot of Tom's family believed he was killed during his sleep. Because self-defense, okay, the hitting him with the cricket bat, okay, fair enough. But then she still went down to the kitchen. When you have your car keys, you have the door open, you can just run. No, she went down to the kitchen to pick up a knife, and she stabbed him. We know he was still alive because the last thing he did was he actually cut his own fingers trying to get the knife out. So there's only so much you can claim self-defense, you know. She was convicted. At the court trial, she started to claim that she had been sexually abused by her brother when she was a teenager. Apparently, some people in her family believed it. Most of them did, but you know, the jury is still out on this one. But anyway, it doesn't justify anything. Yeah, she was found guilty. She was sentenced to life with a minimum of 12 years in prison. She did 8 years. Then she was moved to an open prison in Kent. So she was allowed out at daytime. And then, would you believe, she escaped? That was very silly because she had only 4 more years to do. She escaped. She was sleeping rough for a few days. She called her parents, and she was eventually found with her parents. So she was sent back to prison. And then eventually, a few years later, she was released. She went back to Lincolnshire. She ended up working taking a little stall in an antique shop where she was selling little memorabilia that her parents had kept for her. Stuff that she used to play with or drink with at the palace, or gifts from Fergie, or some of Tom's Gucci belts or anything. And no one knew who she was because she would use the name Jane Lamb. I think Lamb was her mother's middle name. For a few years, and she made friends, and she had almost a normal life. until about, I think that was 5 years ago. There was a documentary about her again, so she came back in the news. So one day she didn't turn up at the antique market, and that's when everyone realized it was Jane Andrews. Then she was sent back to prison. That's not fair. That's not, well, what we seem to know is that she, again under a fake name, started to date a gentleman that he was married, so they had an affair. And apparently at some point, I don't know whether she told him or if he realized, but he found out who she was and he panicked. He didn't know what to do. He had to get rid of her. And apparently he contacted Tom's brother, so the victim, Tom's Cressman brother, and together they concocted a plan. He actually called the police saying Jane Andrews, the murderer, was harassing him. But he didn't tell them they had an affair. They were like, yeah, she's found my number, she's harassing me. So they had to send her back to prison, which is not fair because, you know, I mean, I wish her well, you know, like as a society, if we've decided she paid her debt to society, it's only fair we give them a chance, you know. But apparently, she was able to prove that it was not true. She was able to prove to the police that it was very much a two-sided relationship, not an affair, and she was freed again. Then she went back to Lincolnshire for a while. We know that because through the COVID time, she was working in Morrison's. People had seen her at the till with, what did you call them? The essential worker? What did we call them? Essential? Well, anyway, the very important jobs through the COVID lockdowns. And now, according to one of the newspapers, just before the show came out, the ITV show, she was spotted living a low life in London. So she's one of us. She's walking amongst us. I'm not sure how the paparazzi know that she's living in London. It's not because you spot her in London going to the shop that she's definitely living in London. But apparently, at the latest news, she's somewhere here in London, free. Although, are you ever really free when you are a killer? You know, you are on license, essential worker. Yes, thank you. And so yes, she's free, trying to have a new life, and it probably feels better to be diagnosed with borderline, and I cannot say it, borderline personality disorder, because I guess even if it doesn't justify your actions, at least you can put a disorder on what you've done, on your feelings, on your very excessive. I think people with borderline personality disorder, they often have one person that they kind of obsessed with one person in their life. It could have been all our boyfriends, but it could have been Fergie as well at some point. They really kind of pick a person and even if it's not love, they're obsessed by them to an extent. So that could explain some of her behaviors on jealousy, on possessiveness, and all that. Anyway, that's going to be the end of the tour. Thank you for coming, guys. It's always a great pleasure to have you along. If any of you dropped me a little tip on PayPal or buy me a coffee or wherever you tip, that's very, very much appreciated. Again, it is really thanks to your generosity that I can keep going and spend more time doing new research and buying new books the charity-funded hospital, Kurt, I think that was in Lincolnshire, isn't it? Because I think that was before the London headlines. But again, that's one paparazzi. Sometimes if they don't state their sources, I'm like, how do we know? But yeah, the charity thing, I think that was in Lincolnshire. I could be wrong. Thanks, Pauline. That's very much appreciated. Thanks everyone for your tips, and if anyone was completely new to me, if you've made it that far into the video, you might want to consider subscribing. I've got a lot of new locations coming up. On Monday we're going to Lincoln. The Monday after that we're going to Weston Supermare and Clifton area in Bristol. And then the Monday after that, we're going to Grimsby. I hope you come, because I need to make some money in Grimsby, because I was going to go to Grimsby, well, I was going to go to Lincolnshire for work, but that job got cancelled. So I was like, okay, should I cancel my tour in Grimsby? But like, I've already bought the books, I've already got the train tickets for the return. So now I'm gonna be on a train all day just to go for a few hours in Grimsby to give you a little tour there. And the weekend after that, Boston in Lincolnshire. And so yeah, that's a lot of new locations. So I hope you'll come and join me. Oh, thank you, Kurt. And thanks, Laurie. Thanks, Tish. Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks, everyone, for coming. If any of the locations I've just mentioned take your fancy, go down on my channel and hit the notification thing. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss the live. It's to hit the notification bell. This way you should get notified as the tour starts. And thank you, guys. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm going to get going. I should do anyway, because my battery is going very low. And I'll see you on Monday. If not, I'll see you the Monday after that in Weston-super-Mare and Bristol. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening, or a great morning, or a great lunch, or a great night, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.